So Chris and Fabrice, can you tell our audience a bit more about the more accurate framework for motivation?
In fact, for me, the accurate framework would be first to change our vision about humankind. Because, in fact, what science has proven it is people are naturally curious. And they tend to develop in a positive way, but they are very sensitive to the context, in fact. And for people suspicious, and I have met some of them, look at a 3-year-old kid. He's just curious of everything, in fact. So he can watch butterflies, he can play with cubes for hours without any contingent rewards. But this tendency decreases when he's entering school. So confirming that the context has a major influence in the way we behave and how we feel, in fact. And the self-determination theory, which is a macro theory of human motivation and full functioning, applied across domains like work, sport, management, educational, healthcare, family, has confirmed through the years that the well-being and performance of people are much more dependent on the type, nature of motivation we have for an activity than based on the quantity of the motivation. And it opens a new possibilities in terms of mobilizing people and not motivating people anymore. And it is what Chris has spoken about with this summer puzzle. I am interested in the activity, so I don't need reward. But if I give you a reward, then I will shift my interest from the activity to the reward. And they have worked really 50 years on that. And we distinguish, we will see that on the slides we have put for the audience, 3 main types of motivation. And I start with the R motivation, it is in black, and it is just where people, they don't see any link between their behavior and the result. So they are not motivated at all, and they don't act, in fact. So great example, it is the one that are people out of the system, or they don't want to go to school anymore because they don't find any interest. But if we concentrate about the motivation, in blue on the sheen, one can see autonomous motivation, which means people are fully engaged in the activity. They understand the worth of the activity, and they feel they have choice. And it comprises both the intrinsic motivation, because people are just engaged for the pleasure of the activity. It is me when I'm playing the guitar. I'm not a rock star, but I just enjoy it. And maybe more interesting in workplace, the types of extrinsic motivation, but in which people understand the worth of the purpose, and they engage themselves because they think it's important and it corresponds to their values. That's the first. And we have seen that autonomous motivation leads to both mental stability and as well performance for organization. And it is related to the figures you have given about absenteeism and creativity and this kind of things.
Absolutely.
In red, we have the controlled motivation, and the controlled motivation is extrinsic motivation, but where people feel oppressed by the context. They feel they don't have choice. They need to behave in a certain way. And it is the shortcut you were speaking about. And here we have the external regulation, which is the motivation that is enhanced by the current context and current organization. I'm doing that just for the reward. If I do that, I will obtain that. And then we have what we call the internal regulation, which is people, they feel obliged to behave in a certain way to please the boss. So it's, self-esteem contingent, it is avoidance of shame. These people are usually work alcoholic, but they are very sensitive to the results, so they are much more likely to have burnout, for example. So a vast amount of researchers have confirmed across domain that autonomous motivation and controlled motivation leads to very different outcomes. Autonomous motivation tending to yield to greater psychological health and effective functioning for heuristic tasks. So it is crucial now for organization in this complex world to really understand the way they work and what it generates in terms of type of motivation for people.
Yeah, so if I summarize the model of the self-determination, it's really important that leaders and organizations understand that there is a complex underlying framework, and you have on the one side independent variables like the work context, the jobs, the tasks, the organizational culture. You also have the individual differences of people, which are very, very peculiar and unique sometimes, right? And then on the other hand, you have the dependent variables, which are personal well-being of employees and then also performance of the organization. But in the middle, you have mediators, right? And our framework, the psychological needs, this is the mediating factor. We have the autonomous motivation, the controlled motivation, and if we look deeper into autonomous motivation, we have our 3 basic psychological needs, and that's something that we will look at a little bit more in detail.